Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage CEO of Capacity Media, Roz Irving.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and pleasure to welcome you to the 12th ITW and our very first in our new home city of Atlanta. Very, very exciting for all of us. So first of all, I want to give you some statistics. This year brings together around 7,000 delegates. We don't yet have the final number, and as always, we'll share that with you afterwards. 2,000 companies will be represented. We have 135 different countries attending, so it's truly international. This year, as we're now fully spread out over 2 different hotels, we expect and we hope it will feel slightly quieter, but we can assure you we have the same numbers of people here. We just hope that everyone is able to move around slightly more easily. We've also got more than 140 exhibition booths, 450 meeting rooms, and 350 bilateral tables, so it will certainly be a busy few days. I'd now like to thank the sponsors of this evening's session. They are Clear, Etisalat, iBasis, Orange, PCCW Global, and Telstra. Thank you for making this evening possible. So tonight we'll be joined by Steve Chen, co-founder of YouTube, as our keynote speaker. As I think we all know, YouTube has been one of the most influential platforms over the last 15 years. Today, more than 300 hours of video are uploaded every minute, and live content is supported. In fact, we are live streaming this keynote this evening. The platform continues to innovate and change our habits as consumers of its content, while simultaneously increasing demands on capacity. So I hope you enjoy tonight's evening session and have a very productive few days in our new host city and have some fun and enjoy exploring the city at the same time. Now I'd like you to please join me in welcoming our interviewer this evening, Sam Evans, partner at Delta Partners, to the stage.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first ITW in Atlanta. My name is Sam Evans. I'm a partner with Delta Partners, and tonight it's my great pleasure to be in conversation with a man behind a content revolution. And when we think about YouTube, it's really how YouTube has changed absolutely everything. YouTube is a phenomenon in content, and we're going to be really diving into that tonight to understand how they have changed the content industry. We're going to get Steve's perspectives on some of the key topics facing online video today and get his view on what comes next. And given that we are talking about YouTube, it would be remiss not to be broadcasting live on YouTube. So hopefully you can see behind me here, we're live on the internet tonight, broadcasting around the world. And in the comments box as we go through this evening, people around the world will be able to ask questions that we'll put to Steve on stage. And normally at this time we'll say, put away your phones, focus on what's happening on stage, but not tonight. If you want to take your phones out and stream this on Facebook or another streaming service, please do. This is all about the online content revolution. And for those people in the room this evening who want to ask Steve a question, there is Slido. I think we've got some information here. You can join at slido.com, #ITW2019. Please ask some questions, and we'll be having a vote later on tonight on what you think as the ITW community is the biggest transformational impact that YouTube has had. But before we welcome Steve to the stage, let's think just for a minute how YouTube has changed everything. YouTube is, as I said, a global phenomenon. 1.9 billion logged in users visit monthly. Almost 5 billion videos are watched every day, and it's truly global. 80% of views are from outside the US. And its impact is probably much more than we realize. When we think about shrinking the world, anybody can now communicate with anybody. We've got the example here of the Pitcairn Islands, where the residents film their daily lives and upload it and share it with people around the world. If it wasn't for YouTube, we wouldn't have Justin Bieber. Just think about that. We probably also wouldn't have many of the other musicians that you listen to today. Ed Sheeran, whilst he was gigging in pubs, started uploading videos onto YouTube in 2010, and that led to his first record deal. It makes education accessible. If you think about the 19 million followers of the TED Talks online on YouTube, you think of organizations such as the Khan Academy that have uploaded over 1,400 free tutorials. It spreads activism. The videos of Tahrir Square in Egypt in 2011 made it onto YouTube before they were picked up by the mainstream media. It scales charity. If you look at what happened with the Ice Bucket Challenge, for example, within 2 months there was over 700,000 new donors to the ALS charity, raising over $42 million. And it also boosts advertising. For any Brits in the audience tonight, you just need to think of the John Lewis Christmas advert. And whether that would have been as famous in the Christmas advert wars in the UK would be as vicious as they are today if there wasn't online video. And The Lion King, the new Disney movie, 44 million views in the first day. So how has YouTube changed everything? Well, it's changed how we watch video. It's over 10% of traffic share globally. And if you look at the number one, Netflix, that credits YouTube with its move to online streaming. Around the world, YouTube is the number one website for download traffic. 35% of worldwide mobile traffic is YouTube. For all of you in the audience tonight who have businesses built on international data, a good share of that is a result of what Steve and his colleagues founded back in 2005. And it scaled new content types, short form, the ability to interact with the content creator, and discovery of new content were all pioneered and driven by YouTube and later picked up by other platforms. And what about content distribution? Well, it's created an alternative value chain. If you think back to the traditional content production value chain, quite a lengthy process. YouTube got rid of the middleman. You can put content out there. You can measure the engagement. You can revise your content. You can put it back out there again. No longer is there such a long requirement for a content production process. And it's redefined engagement. That traditional concept of engagement is eyeballs and it's time. Well, not in the YouTube sense. This is on the screen now, the ranking algorithm. Look at all of those different factors that measure engagement. And when you look at the True Ads platform that YouTube now has, that is 23 times more effective than traditional media broadcast advertising. So it's fundamentally changed the way that we engage with content and therefore how content can be monetized. And it's also democratized talent. There are over 11 million channels on YouTube that have more than 100 subscribers. There's over 1.8 million people around the world who are creating revenue generated by broadcasting their content on the platform. Last year, the top 10 creators of content on YouTube made over $180 million. PewDiePie, who's there winking at us from the screen, he made $15 million last year, primarily by just giving an overview of what's happening in computer games while he sat in his flat. It's a complete revolution if you think what talent means. But are these people held to the same standards as traditional broadcasters? We'll discuss with Steve a bit later, the implications of Logan Paul's ill-advised video that he took in Japan or PewDiePie's anti-Semitic comments. Are they being treated the same because they're online talent as opposed to if they were working for traditional broadcast media? And it's also enabled hyperscale distribution. This is views in the first 24 hours versus opening day tickets. Maybe despite all the hype, Avengers Endgame wasn't so much actually. Only 17.3 million tickets sold compared to over 50 million views for some of the leading YouTube videos. And networks, our businesses in this room tonight, it's really driven us to architect our networks for content. If you think about networks were originally for voice, and then it was for data, they're fundamentally now video, and video taking up the majority share of traffic. And it influences how we architect. It influences our need for network bandwidth and how we think about equipment upgrades. It's going to drive the debate around video edge caching and network aggregation. It's going to really make us think how we implement carrier Ethernet quality of service-based services. And it's going to accelerate the implementation of NFV and SDN technologies. For everybody in this room tonight who is thinking about what does the next 5 years of my network deployment and my network infrastructure look like, either directly or indirectly, YouTube will be driving a lot of the assumptions that sit within your models. And it stimulates policy debates, whether it's should data bundles be capped because people are watching too much video? What about net neutrality and making sure that apps are potentially not throttled? And what about broadcasting regulation and whether OTT should be the same as traditional broadcast media? All of these debates are stimulated and have been driven by the growth that YouTube has brought to the industry. So tonight, we want to discuss three things. We want to understand fundamentally, how has YouTube come to change everything? We want to get Steve's view on the key topics that are shaping and will continue to shape the online video industry. And we want to have a perspective on what comes next. What are the next big innovations? And for those amongst you tonight who might be investing in this industry, where does it make sense to put your money? So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage the man behind the platform that literally changed everything when it came to online video, Mr. Steve Chen. Video killed the radio star. There we go. Welcome to Atlanta. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Now, I want to go back to the beginning somewhat.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to 2005. What was the genesis of YouTube? Where did it start?
I think there are two answers to that question. I think there's the one that we concentrated on and practiced with the PR companies to answer, and then there's the truthful, honest one. And the one that we concocted with the PR company, I can say in my sleep, the one that's actually true. It wasn't until the $1 billion Viacom lawsuit where we had to actually come out with the truth. But when we were trying to create YouTube, embarrassingly, it was looking at what was already out there that was successful. And one of the sites, I don't know if people in this room remember, a site called hotornot.com. Maybe not. But hotornot.com was a site. It was a dating site. You upload your photos, and there are two actions with a button that said hot and a button that said not. And it was very quick. You go through, and it was a dating site. And we thought that, was there a way that we can translate this instead of using photos? Let's use videos as the background. And so we built everything out there for about 4 months. During that span, from February to about May when we launched, we were building the entire backbone of what exists on YouTube. All the video transcoding, pulling out image stills, searches, being able to embed the videos. But the actual user interface layer was all about dating. After being live for 7 days, we literally received 0 videos on YouTube. And so it was just a small change really on the interface of the site to convert it to, instead of just receiving personal dating videos, let's have incoming any type of video that you could upload. And it was a pretty easy move because everything that we had built already was out there. And as soon as we launched that, we saw the influx of content starting to come in. None of them dating videos.
And so what was the moment where you went, okay, we're on to something? So when you speak to startups, there's always that inflection point. And given the speed at which YouTube grew, I assume you had a fundamental inflection point. What was that?
Yeah, so I think at that time, if you were to rewind the clock back to 2005, something like YouTube was foreign to everyone on both sides, right? I think definitely from the startup community, from the venture capital community, content creators, and advertisers. But the key thing that is at the apex of how everything flows down is going to be the content. It's going to be content creation. And during those 3 months, people didn't really have the mechanisms to be able to create content. They didn't have the content already stored on their computers. So we were trying to figure it out with our users. We were marketing it out there. If you have content, if you have videos uploaded. And so for the first few months, it was, to be honest, a lot of the videos were accidental videos. They were people clicking the wrong button on their camera. Instead of taking a photo, they would take a video, and then here's a place to share it. But in November of 2005 was when YouTube received its first viral video. And viral in that day was mainly meant as, I would define it to be a video that was uploaded where you didn't know every view who was behind that view. So usually you would upload a video for your kid's birthday party, you would share it to 12 people, and you knew exactly where those 12 views came from. The first video, and it was the Nike Ronaldinho video that was uploaded that we briefly saw, that was the first video that was uploaded and received over 1 million video views. And the uploader had no person that they intended to watch it. It wasn't shared with anyone. It was out there, and it relied on the actual community to be the ones that virally spread that video.
And once it went viral, I mean, did that cause challenges for you sort of scaling the architecture and just the technical capabilities of the platform?
Oh, absolutely. I think that at that time, just in general, nobody was ready for something like YouTube, right? The amount of bandwidth that was going to be used, the streaming, the data centers, the amount of power, and the need for being able to grow out that bandwidth on such a compressed schedule. For the first few months while we released YouTube, the amount of traffic was doubling every week. And this was a time before you could just go online, click a few buttons, and add 200 servers. This was still at the time, it was 6 weeks. You order the racks, you set up the times to be going into whichever data centers. You had to be there present, physically there. And so it was a very difficult time to be able to scale out a service like YouTube as opposed to now.
But you scaled quickly, right? And the Google acquisition sort of happened quite quickly. We think about how long startups sort of go for today before being acquired. What drove the speed of the Google acquisition?
What drove the...
What drove from start to them being acquired by Google? It's not the longest period of time if you look at from a startup perspective. You didn't go multiple rounds of funding and then think and then get acquired. You started up in a relatively short period of time as startups go, you were acquired. What drove that? What drove your thinking to say, right, we need to get acquired now?
I think there are a few answers to that. I think the big one is going to be on the engineering side. There's the scalability, there's the internationalization, making sure that we have data centers all around the world, the localization, just the amount of bandwidth that we can do. But the biggest driver for the acquisition was that we had one lawyer on the entire team, and she was overworked with the amount of inquiries coming in. There's this Digital Millennium Copyrights Act that was enacted in 1997 in the US that was supposed to defend this user-generated content, a site like YouTube, but a site even with just user-generated comments, photos. And so when a piece of content gets uploaded and it has potentially audio or video that is not owned by the content creator, you're supposed to go through this process. And because it was enacted in 1997, you're supposed to fax something in. We're supposed to have 7 days to fax you back, and we're supposed to interact through faxing one another to say whether or not we should take this piece of content down or not. But I think that a lot of things back then, and about the time right before the acquisition, the dominant amount of traffic was still coming from the US, not from international, but number 2, number 3, it was Japan, and it was Germany. It was closing in. It was about a 48%, 52% divide between coming from inside the US versus outside the US, and we knew that with all the content that was coming in from outside the US, with the potential monetization opportunities coming in from outside the US, we couldn't just point to the DMCA as the mechanism, the process, if you're outside the US, if you want us to take something down. And so it was a no-brainer to be working with someone like Google, with all the resources that they have for internationalization, for localization, for scalability, but most importantly, for the number of lawyers they have.
I mean, you touched on the music industry there, and that's something sort of unintentional in terms of copyright. But YouTube has had a key role in transforming, I think, music distribution. Do you ever stop and think about the number of artists that you've enabled to have absolutely global careers because of the platform you created?
No, I mean, we touched upon it earlier. I think that one of the phenomenons that YouTube has had was to be able to enable anybody, whether it's talented or untalented, but anybody that has, I like the Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
To be able to, they don't need anyone else. I mean, everybody has an iPhone. Everybody has a way to be able to be able to create content and upload it. And I think that from the 2006, 2007 era, from the content that you used to see with the poor audio, with the poor video resolutions, to what you see today. Today, it's going to be a guess as to which is actually created by a full band of editors and content creators versus a single person doing it from their own house. And so I think that I think one of the things that YouTube has really changed was to be able to compress down. If you have talent, you will be discovered on YouTube, and you don't need to have the communications, you don't need the numbers in your Rolodex to call to be able to be found.
And if you look back, who were the first artists that really embraced this as a distribution channel? Do you remember from your time thinking, right, they've got it, this is completely new?
Outside of Justin.
Outside of Justin.
No, I think that, I do say that I think it did happen over a period of time. I mean, it was really a phenomenon that both the content creators as well as the music studios, this is not something that they were used to. And so I think from the content creators, from day one, we were receiving content. And then we started hearing that folks from Hollywood were making direct messages and contacting these content creators to see if there's a way to be able to connect with them. And I think at the beginning of that sparked and inspired generations upon generations of new content creators. And so as you saw, most of the top newly discovered content creators that are out there, they actually post on YouTube first. And furthermore, I think some of the established artists, they don't go through the music studios. They just put it out there, and then using social media ways to be able to consume content, that's how they release their music to the masses.
And do you think musicians are rewarded fairly in this transition? Because yes, there's the increased distribution that you get, but you also have the phenomenon of, at a concert, everybody filming on their phone and then broadcasting it up on YouTube or other sites, potentially take away other revenue streams. Is it a fair model for the musician?
I think it's interesting, and I think there's been a wide amount of evolution throughout the last 15 years. I think when YouTube was first launched, and when traffic for streaming music was not dominant on YouTube, but it was growing on YouTube, the first reaction from the music studios that we need to do something about this, because we're not selling CDs, we're not selling the conventional ways that we have to distribute content. But over a period of time, throughout that process, YouTube implemented things like Audible Magic to be able to detect within 10 seconds that this piece of audio belongs to this music studio, and we need to have a connection with this music studio to see whether or not we should be either taking this piece of content down, keeping it up, introducing ads, and then rev share. But over a period of time, you're starting to see kids these days, they're consuming the majority of there's media, entertainment, music, they're doing it from YouTube. And it's a complete switch as to, of course we're gonna keep it on YouTube. And in fact, the next viral song that gets out into the public, the next song that gets over 100 million views, it's gonna be done on YouTube. And so they have to fully embrace YouTube. And so I think it's a complete 180-degree turn from what it was just even a decade ago.
And so we touched on music being one, let's call it content vertical early on, that scaled. Did you see other content verticals spiking in terms of what users were uploading? Was it sort of UGC views of what's happening in the news, or was it comedy, or was it film clips? Beyond music, what was the content that was being uploaded?
Beyond music, maybe these unboxing videos, No, I think that, one of the things that was, well, first say is that when YouTube was starting, my role as the CTO was a lot of things: meetings, emails, discussions about how to scale the platform. But one of the things that I also had to do was pick the top 10 videos on the front page of YouTube. And at the time, the user interface was you would log in, you would see the top 10 most popular views, highly rated views, videos on the site. So I would go through every night, look at the content that was out there and put it up there. And of course, as we talked about, music content was always going to be the most viewed. The videos of a cute puppy was always going to get the most number of views. But you have something that would not be possible without YouTube. And it was my goal through that process to always be able to surface that type of content, right? To be able to show that YouTube is not just for entertainment. It's not just for another method for streaming music, but it could be used for these other purposes. And so some of the things I remember was there was this content that was from the African safari, and it was on one person's digital camera that was taken of this video clip. And they uploaded it to YouTube. By the time that I featured it on the front page, it didn't have more than 100 video views. And to put it up there on YouTube is to say that, without this platform, without this technology, without YouTube, there was no way that this video would have ever been viewed by more than one person in the world. And so you upload it onto YouTube, and all of a sudden, this goes to show the power of the channels of distribution that YouTube has, is that anybody from around the world can upload anything they want, and then immediately after this transcoding, distributed, cached all over the world. And so it's for me, putting that content on the front page meant that it wasn't just for the traditional ways of entertainment, but it could be used for much more.
So I think then there's a question around, to what extent, is the platform purely a platform, or is the platform playing an editorial role? And it's something we can get into more detail later this evening, but if you're choosing the videos to go on the front page, you're essentially a content editor. But then there's the argument that actually, look, YouTube is a platform, therefore not taking editorial decisions. Where did you see at the time, Uline? Were you a platform, or were you a content broadcaster with editorial decisions?
Well, when it came down to, and this is for the creation of a user-generated site, and for legal reasons, for monetization reasons, you're not supposed to look at any piece of content that's online. You're not supposed to monetize any of the traffic online. If you're not supposed to make any relevant ads monetizing any of the content online. And so the way that YouTube was built was completely algorithmic, right? And so any piece of content goes up, and you can make evaluations based on the tags that were used. Potentially, you can do optical recognition to see what's inside the videos. You can do things where you're looking throughout the session to see all the videos that people are watching, and these are the similar videos, and pushing that to related videos. But from we restrained ourselves from an editorial side. We didn't want to be the ones that were strictly engaged with this video is tied with these videos. This was all algorithmic.
And on that, we've got a question from a member of the audience, actually very much on that, saying, beyond sort of automation, pattern recognition, the algorithm, how would YouTube ensure that it's not actually limiting an artist or limiting a content creator? Because if you fall foul of the ranking algorithm, are you not sort of protected against the market, i.e. you can't distribute as effectively?
No, I think that I want to say the average length of a piece of content on YouTube is anywhere from 3 minutes to 4 minutes. And based on different studies, the amount of time that people actually spend on YouTube, the session of time that they spend on YouTube is approximately 30 minutes. So working that out is the related videos is the genesis for a lot of the start of watching another video, right? And so there was a lot of research that went into it, a lot of usability studies that went into that. So if you're watching a piece of content, there's going to be about 40% of that content that is similar to the content that you're watching. But if you were to look at different pieces of content out there, and if you think of them as different islands, they're all interconnected in some ways. And so people that do like this content also seem to like these other pieces of content. And the only way that you're going to be able to get users to stick around for 30 full minutes rather than the 4 minutes is to be able to get them to watch other types of content. And so it was by design that we had 60% allocated that recommended space to be content that's outside of the one that you are watching. And so you get a lot of these stories where you first start, you were shared a video on YouTube and it was about golf, and then 30 minutes later, you're watching something completely different, and you don't know how you got there, but that's
it's often
in
the middle of
design.
I find it's often in the middle of exam revision you get there, right? But on the topic of watching one video, then watching another video, then another video, it's often the viral content, right, that sucks you in. And I think we have a short video here just to give one example of how YouTube has driven viral content, but in a case of viral content for good. So let's just take a look. You obviously had great insight into the content coming onto the platform, right, and how it's performing, where it's been uploaded from. To what extent is viral an organic process versus something that can be heavily engineered?
I think it's a very organic process, right? And for I think this is a great example when types of content are uploaded onto YouTube, and when it goes viral, we've just seen we've seen the first episodes of it early on, Saturday Night Live videos in 2005 and Ronaldinho videos in 2005, and just continue to move forward for the last decade. You started to see this more often, and you started getting subscribers. You get subscriptions and subscribers to people that are creating this viral content. But I think in some ways, because the whole definition of the virality of content is that it's based on the very nature, characteristics of what composes that content. And so I think YouTube, by stripping out all the middlemen, it is the fairest way to be able to determine what types of content should be going viral and what shouldn't be going viral, right? It's there's nobody else but the users that are deciding this. The users decide whether or not this piece of content is, they should watch the entire thing, whether or not they should share it, and that's the definition of virality. It's the content itself.
But then have you seen that that's changed what sort of content people want to upload? It's sort of, I'm bidding for viral, right? I want to go viral. And over the course of online videos evolution, have you seen not necessarily the integrity of content step down, but more that my challenge is here is how do I create something that will scale virally?
I think certainly yes. I think that, but I would say that the various users on YouTube, especially the content creators, they're driven by different motivations, right? And so I think there are the newscasters out there that are just trying to create content, not really driven by the number of views, but to be able to be there, to be able to have a video of some situation. But the majority of the content that we know about in here are going to be created by content creators that are motivated by just the number of views, the reach around the world. But I mean, I don't think that's any different from any other distribution vehicle. I mean, I think in many, many ways, I think YouTube just highlights what has historically been done or what is currently being done on other platforms. And it's just a lot more obvious that the content that you're seeing out there, when it goes viral, the nature behind the motivation for that.
And you touched on the content creator who's creating content for views and for engagement. When did you first hear the phrase the YouTuber, right? The person who is specifically generating content for YouTube as their primary or sole distribution platform?
This is embarrassing that this is live broadcasted on YouTube, but YouTube...
It makes you a YouTuber now, right?
I saw we had 12 people viewing me. The YouTuber concept, I think that we alluded to this earlier, but at a certain point, it went from musicians that you and I know about video clips, maybe sports athletes doing something that we know, then to these guys that we don't know about, that have that the number of subscribers that they have far exceeds, watching Ronaldinho. And I know my sons, 8-year-olds and 6-year-olds, they get it more than their father does. The content that I continue to watch would be how-to videos or videos that are not created by a YouTuber. But I would also say this is that it's a closed system in a way. Is that YouTube has created a community where the content creators they themselves are YouTubers. They look at other YouTubers and then they start creating their own content in a way that may be slightly different and slightly improved. And it's a network it's continuing to scale up. You're seeing better content through all these different sort of passes through time. So I think it's going to be continually interesting as we start looking out for the next few years with the types of content that we're getting from YouTubers.
So let's just take a quick look. We've got a short video here just to bring to life just quite how powerful these YouTubers have become.
It reminds me, my younger son, during one of the class projects, they went around the room, and there were 16 kids in the room, and they were asking what they wanted to be when they grow up, and one of them maybe dentist, doctor, but 3 of them said a YouTuber, and that's, to me, as person behind YouTube, it's almost embarrassing. I feel like I'm not doing something good for the next generation of kids if that's what I'm promoting them to do.
Well, so we've actually got a question here which says, what would you tell a 7-year-old that grows up wanting to be a YouTube celebrity? What would your advice be?
I think they should be talking to their parents about something else they should be interested in. I do think that in a way it does engender creativity. You do look at this content and think about ways to be able to sort of absorb it and try to improve it, and somehow you don't want to completely replicate it because you know that it's already out there. So there's a bit of that. But look, I have my own kids, and that's not what I want them to be when they grow up.
But is there a risk, if you look at, for example, the example there, PewDiePie, he made $15 million in 2017. But he's also drawn criticism for some anti-Semitic views. You've then got Logan Paul, another YouTuber, who filmed a very ill-advised, distasteful video in Japan. They've come under criticism, but they've got through that criticism much more quickly and been able to continue to distribute content, continue to monetize content. Whereas if they'd been on a main, US network, for example, or a UK network, they would have lost their jobs, lost their contract. Do different rules apply when you're broadcasting online? And is that ethically the right approach?
I think our president, Donald Trump, seems to get away with anything he says within 24 hours. And it's not on YouTube, but it's on the cable television. I do think that, by the very nature of YouTube, the influx of content that's coming in, yes, there will always be, I think, the media will always be looking at the type of content that's coming in, and then they need to evaluate it. However, I think that it is so evolutionary so quickly that you just rewind the clock by a few years, and the types of content that you see on YouTube is so different from what it is now, and it continues to change. I think it's a difficult thing for, I think all of this is a difficult thing for one large company like YouTube to make one cohesive decision about what do we do with this piece of content. Right? Even when I was at YouTube, we had a 70-page document as to determine which types of content to keep up, which types of content to take down. And you need this to be with the thousands of people that's looking at every piece of flagged content coming in. You need to decide, does this belong on YouTube? Does this not? Is this offensive to the Thailand royalty. So within the IP addresses of Thailand, do you take this down? But is it okay in other parts of the world? It just in every country and every culture, there's something that should be decided about whether it should be kept up, kept down. I think there are certain categories of content that everybody thinks is fine, is safe, is appropriate for kids, and then there's the other side. There's a side which says none of this should be up, we should take this down. But the biggest part is this gray area in between. And you have to look at everything from what is the age appropriateness of this content, what the IP addresses, what country are we talking about, what cultures, do you let a piece of content that's uploaded in a certain country only be viewed outside of that country, which countries, I mean, it's a difficult process. Furthermore, you need to expand this so it's standardized across every person that's monitoring every piece of flag content coming in. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of criticism coming from the outside about the pieces of content that YouTube, mostly the content that YouTube leaves up. But being on the inside, just thinking about how do you actually look at the billions of videos that are there and decide every single one of them correctly such that everyone that's looking at this content is in agreement that this should be taken down or it should not be.
And so that's where, the stats around 300 to 500 hours of content uploaded every minute. From what you're saying, is it more than just an algorithm that can tell you that? I mean, to what extent does it still need to be a human decision on what is appropriate content and what is inappropriate content?
I think absolutely. I think there's a lot of middle ground in this area where just with algorithms, you can look with what Google has in place now, it can identify just about every object that's inside every single frame in this video. But even looking at that, it ends up being the background of the person wherever in the world, the age, whether his parents are around, and whether or not that piece of content should be kept up or not. And so I think that I don't think the determination of content, whether or not it should stay up to be viewed or not be viewed, it can't be made by pure machines and algorithm and code. There needs to be somewhere along the lines a human judgment.
And so let's move, I think, beyond the YouTuber. Let's come into the mainstream. Over the last 5 to 7 years, YouTube has really become mainstream media. And I think that sort of changes the scrutiny we have on the platform. Before we discuss that, let's just take a quick look to see how YouTube has really become mainstream.
I remember just looking at the 2007 Democratic debates, and that was the first time where YouTube and CNN collaborated together. And it was a big event for YouTube because it was working with mainstream television, and it was actually integrating YouTube, which only had started 2 years ago, onto mainstream broadcasting and part of the presidential elections. And the whole idea of integrating YouTube was that instead of just the people in the audience asking the questions, all of a sudden you're getting people uploading just short clips of themselves asking the questions. And the reason for that is that you get to see the context behind the questions, you get to see the background, the family room, the kitchen of where this person was asking the questions. So the questions had a lot more meaning. But we were so excited to see that because here's an embracement of YouTube, of the platform, being used for something that was always conventionally produced. Now all of a sudden you're integrating YouTube and user-generated content into that flow.
And did you see that changed the demographics of those who were engaged in the political process in the United States? Was it a younger demographic, for example, coming in and engaging via YouTube as opposed to the traditional news broadcasters?
Yeah, certainly. I think Obama's a great example where I think the best channel for him to communicate to a younger audience was through YouTube, and I think that he was probably one of the first chapters, the first leads in using YouTube. But nowadays, it's pretty much mainstream to be able to, if you're going to broadcast, if you're going to create content anywhere, just upload it to YouTube as well, or even more, create content specifically for YouTube, for the online market, right?
But then now it's mainstream, it's being embraced by politicians. Brings you back to the question of content platform versus editorial, right? How do you assure, especially in this era of fake news, right, that you are being balanced, you're not driving an editorial policy through how the ranking algorithm works, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue of fake news, especially in the last couple of years, it has really escalated and has surfaced. So it's a conventional problem that we know about, all of us. Not that I would encourage the fake news, but my observation is that fake news has always been a rampant problem, but it's only because of the internet. It's only because of platforms like Facebook and YouTube, where anything that's uploaded within 3 seconds, anybody can see this, right? And there's not that editorial channel in the way to be able to say, I don't know, do the background research to say this is fake, this is genuine, this doesn't belong, this does belong. I think in some ways, the answer to that would be, I think YouTube and Facebook and social platforms provide a pretty good guideline as to what is already actually happening out there and what doesn't have a solution to problems that's already out there. But it's just demonstrated, and it's a lot more clear when you look at it on YouTube and when you look at it on Facebook.
And as you became mainstream media, as YouTube became mainstream media, we have a question here. Why did YouTube not become Netflix? Why didn't it go the Netflix direction? Because you had the audience probably online sooner. Why didn't you embrace acquiring rights, original productions sooner, and take that space that Netflix has evolved into?
My opinion on this, when I was still at YouTube, differs from, I think, the route that it's taken now after the acquisition. I've always thought that YouTube, in order to remain as a sort of a pristine user-generated content site, it needed to not deviate from just all content needs to be uploaded, contributed by users. And it brings into all sorts of questions as to if this piece of content is created by, inside a YouTube studio, then you question, why is that so high on the relevance chart? Why is that the video that's always recommended? Why, when I do a search, that's always the video that's at the top? And so I've always been on the side of creating YouTube as always user-generated content. And so for something like Netflix, where none of it is generated by their users, it's all produced, it's all created in-house, or it's all integrated, I think it's a very different market. But now, as we see that users do consume content on both sides of that bucket, we are seeing integration between those two sides. But when YouTube was during its first 5-6 years when I was there, I always stuck to we can only have content that's user-generated. Maybe we do some help in guiding or advising how to create better forms of that content, but we don't create the content ourselves.
And as you become mainstream and just huge in terms of the number of videos being uploaded, the number of videos being watched, you obviously rely massively on the networks, right, to distribute that content. And this is the purpose of ITW, for the network providers to come together. There hasn't always been probably the most harmonious relationship between the content platforms and the network providers.
I should say sorry to this group here.
But you can't distribute great content globally without great networks. How did you look at the importance of networks when you were back in YouTube? And how do you think the relationship needs to evolve today to ensure that the network providers who are needing to invest in the networks can continue to do so, whilst often a lot of value is still captured above at the platform and service layers?
No, I mean, I think everybody understands that YouTube, Google, Netflix, Uber, none of these companies can exist without the underlying infrastructure, right? And I think that there's discussions about, say, network neutrality, and maybe that's the solution. I think that there are potential ways where there's, alliances between the parties with the subscribing users, the content creators, and the networks themselves. I think an issue that's come up frequently is the sort of where we stand when it comes to network neutrality, and that was something that was an issue when I was there at YouTube. And from the stance of Google and YouTube, it makes sense that network neutrality should remain because we want it such that any piece of content that's uploaded from anywhere in the world can be consumed at the sort of highest quality, highest resolution, highest audio quality as can be, without saying that if you are subscribing through this network versus this network, you're going to be getting higher quality content versus not. But I think there has to be ways to be able to harmoniously engage the two, because without one, the other can't exist, right? And so I think maybe some creativity that goes into forging some kind of positive relation between the two to be able to create something that works for both parties. And to be honest, I think that both sides want that to happen. It's just a matter of coming up with that solution.
Yeah, and I think that gets more critical as we take a look forward. We think about live video, we think about 5G and so forth. And we'll come on to talk about those, but one of the key trends I think we've seen with YouTube in recent years is it's embraced live and it's embraced pay TV. So probably to open sort of this part of our discussion, a question from the audience. If you look forward, what do you think is YouTube's biggest challenge at the moment?
Well, I think maybe in a way to answer that would be that if I were to try to start another company today, if I had another idea, with the other co-founder, Chad Hurley, it wouldn't be trying to compete against YouTube. I think the platform that YouTube has built, the underlying framework for distributing content, for caching content, all the apps out there that's already integrated with YouTube, in many, many ways, even if the technology was not the best out there, even if the search engine was not the best, even if the transcoding was subpar compared to other providers and startups, there are just too much that's already all committed, from the content creators, from studios, from startups that's just creating content just for YouTube, to everything on the back end side of things, with apps that are integrating things into YouTube. That I think in a lot of ways, YouTube in the sense of the content that we see on YouTube in terms of standard conventional video streaming, live videos, audio, YouTube is going to be the platform, and I think what's going to be exciting is going to be the new types of content that's going to be coming out, that's going to be uploaded onto YouTube. Now, if it's different types of content, if it's going to be VR, AR content, then YouTube is definitely doing something in those areas, but maybe there's something that's so unconventional that just like when YouTube started in 2005, that will take it off the ground.
So when you started YouTube in 2005, what did you think the YouTube of 2010 would look like if you took the 5-year out view? Did it pan out as you thought it would?
I want to say that I think the hardest part about YouTube was getting from 0 views a day to that 1 million views a day. After that point, it really just became an issue of, scalability and legal. But the adoption of the users from 0 to 1 million we were convinced that this was a product that people were going to use, embrace, and share. And of course, the pace in that happened, and the speed in which number of views were doubling, the amount of users registered, amount of videos that were uploaded, all those were skyrocketing. I think that after those 1 million video views, then it really became less of an entrepreneurial problem, but more of just an operationally, how do we continue to scale this?
And so if that was your sort of your first 5-year challenge, what's the next 5 years? So if we're to get out of the time machine, and you've got to, that first, you've shown how much is possible, what we did in the first 5 years. But if we look at the next 5 years, get out of that time machine in 2024 and go, this is YouTube today. As the pioneer at the forefront of online video, what do you think that will look like?
No, I do think that, just touching upon it earlier, I think if you were to split across sort of this vertical definition of YouTube into one on the platform side and one of them on the actual content side, right? I think a good example would be saying if you have an idea that's on a mobile device and if you more or less have to develop it for iOS or Android. You can't go out and create a competitor to iOS, Android, build something else at the same time creating the single app that resides on this new platform. It's just, as a startup, it is just way too much work to be spending all your resources trying to compete at that infrastructure level while spending the resources to build out this app. And I think in a lot of ways, YouTube is in that boat right now, that it'll be difficult to create something that'll be competitive with YouTube on the platform level. But I think what is going to be interesting are going to be the startups that's going to be helping users, maybe helping users monetize their content, maybe helping users create their content, things that all the content creators need, but are not integrated and not something that YouTube or Google provides currently.
And one question we've had here is, to what extent do you think YouTube can transform the education industry? So to what extent, being that global content platform, new forms of content emerging, do you think, again, it can transcend beyond entertainment, right, and go into sector by sector for training, for education? Do you see that as a potential next step for such a platform?
Oh, and I don't think it's a next step. I think we're in the heart of it now, right? I mean, I think that education throughout history has always been a big problem, which is you have you have people out there that have knowledge that needs to be shared, but other than, who's within earshot, nobody's going to hear this. But all of a sudden you have YouTube and you have the actual users being able to decide this is good, this is bad. You have the users that are sharing good content. My kids alone, I mean, they are outside of school. The best way to be consuming educational content is making sure it's educational content is through YouTube. And you start having channels out there that all they're doing is just creating, and it's going to be verticals. This is the best place to be looking at specific types of content, but all sorts of things from, especially from a global sense. You have like language classes, and you're taking language classes not from, for example, the Spanish teacher that lives in the neighborhood, but the Spanish teacher that's actually interacting, engaging with you live from Spain, right? And so I think that with this network of YouTube, with educational content, and by shrinking down those global connections, so you're literally one step away from the actual teacher students, it's something that YouTube and only YouTube can do.
And being a telecoms event here, I have to ask, 5G. How is 5G going to change the content experience?
I think that it's inevitable that it's in the future of just all the sort of internet domain, all the applications out there, right? And the sort of bandwidth-heavy driven applications like YouTube and Netflix are going to be at the front of it. In some ways, it's also going to be, it's a bit of a chicken and egg as to does the content need it yet, or if the bandwidth is available, then the content will scale up to that level of quality. I think that right now, what YouTube has is, for the moment, sufficient. And I think it's at a point where the content that is actually being created, the viral content that's being created, it's being judged based on the the essence, the quality of the content itself, the quality of the content, right? Not the actual quality of the videos and the audio. And in some ways, it's less visible now, but you rewind that clock by 10 years, and videos that were receiving 100 million video views, but shot at 640 by 480 with mono audio, that getting 100 million video views versus that Blu-ray disc that you're watching. And so there's something to be said that it's a balance between not just whether or not you're getting surround sound with this content, but you have to actually look at the content itself. But again, they're merging.
It's that blend of engineering and storytelling, right?
Yeah.
They continue to both be important. I think, Steve, we should turn it over to the audience to see what they think. We have an audience poll, because we talked through some of the trends or the game-changing moments. We want to invite everybody in the audience to vote on their phones at slido.com, #ITW2019. So for everybody here tonight, in your view, in which way do you think YouTube has had the biggest impact? Is it by having this new breed of content creator? Is it by launching viral content? Is it putting OTT in mainstream media? Is it transforming the music industry? Or is it live content going OTT? So would encourage everybody to see if they can vote and share what they think. Whilst people are voting, Steve, of those sort of 5 there, what's your legacy? What are you proudest of to say, you'll tell your sons, that was me, I was behind that revolution?
I think viral content is the main contribution that YouTube has provided, right? I mean, I think if there's anything prior to 2004 and after 2004, prior to YouTube and after YouTube, the internet itself didn't enable this, but it allowed for this, which is a way to be able to connect anybody from around the world instantaneously. If you have an iPhone in your pocket, you can be anywhere around the world, record something, and all of a sudden, anybody else around the world can view that, and they can view it live. And that's just something that was not possible before 2005. And we're continuing to see more ways to be able to take this content, more ways to be able to distribute this content. When YouTube was first out, the iPhone was not there. And so when I actually, most of the content during 2005, 2006, we had the most number of uploads on Fridays.
Yeah.
The most number of views always on Fridays,
Yeah.
and the most number of uploads on Sundays.
Okay.
And it's people that had a great weekend. They would go home on their digital cameras, start USB syncing, and then upload all the videos. But now it's distributed. It's actually the daytime that you're getting most of the videos from all over the world. And I think that too. Before 2005, that it was impossible. If you had a piece of content that you took on your phone on a digital camera that was video, you couldn't share it with anyone else around the world. I think that's the biggest contribution that YouTube has contributed and has built on top of what was possible with the internet.
Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time here this evening. I think you voted sort of comprehensively that whether you credit or blame Steve for the creation of the YouTuber phenomenon. Steve, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here at ITW in Atlanta. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear your views firsthand of everything that you did in YouTube and what that's done to online video. To everybody here tonight, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your engagement.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the most successful and productive ITW. So have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.